The UFC lightweight division is in one of its most unpredictable phases in years. Ever since Islam Makhachev vacated his lightweight belt to chase welterweight gold, a power vacuum has left fans and fighters scrambling to figure out who truly deserves the next big opportunity. Ilia Toporia's rise to the throne came fast and brutal, knocking out Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 in what many consider one of the cleanest finishes in recent championship memory. But the question now is who gets to challenge him first? Paddy Pimblett's name has surfaced louder than ever, especially after he went public, claiming that both Topuria and other ranked contenders were avoiding him. The Liverpudlian told Marca that he's struggling to get a fight and accused several fighters, including Justin Gaethje, of dodging him. That comment caught Topuria's attention, who surprisingly agreed that if the choice were his, he'd rather fight Paddy because there's history, Topuria said, hinting that this fight might be more personal than professional. But Islam Makhachev isn't buying into the hype. The former champion told ESPN's Brett Okamoto that fighters like Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje are far more deserving of a title shot than Pimblett. Arman was the backup for Charles and Topuria. He cut weight, showed up, and deserves the title fight, Makhachev said, also noting that Gaethje remains one of the few lightweights with championship-level credentials. The Dagestani didn't mince words about Pimblett, dismissing his resume outright. Maybe Arman, maybe Gaethje, but not Paddy for sure. Paddy beat who? Tony Ferguson? Chandler? Everybody beat Chandler. Makhachev's blunt comments reflect what many hardcore fans already believe, that Pimblett hasn't proven himself against top-5 opposition. Despite his star power and polarizing persona, his most notable wins came against fighters past their prime, and critics argue he's benefited from UFC's marketing push more than merit-based matchmaking. Meanwhile, Tsarukyan, who served as backup for UFC 317, is now set to headline UFC Qatar against Dan Hooker, adding another layer of uncertainty to the title race. Dana White hasn't cleared much of that fog either. Asked about the possibility of booking Topuria versus Pimblett, the UFC boss kept things vague, but didn't close the door entirely. He told TNT Sports, "As of right now, no, we haven't made that fight. We're trying to figure out what's next for Topuria. It's obviously a fun fight, people would like to see it, but I don't know." White also mentioned that the UFC is working on several high-profile matchups for next year's Paramount Plus card, including a rumored Khamzat Chimaev versus Nasruddin Imavov bout, but stressed that nothing is official. So for now, the division remains in a state of organized chaos. Topuria is the new face of lightweight dominance, Pimblett is stirring up noise trying to force his way into title contention, and veterans like Gaethje and Tsarukyan are still waiting for the recognition they've earned inside the cage. Whether the UFC decides to prioritize entertainment value or competitive integrity will determine what direction this division takes next: a grudge match with fireworks or a merit-based battle between the best 155ers on the planet.
Mackenzie Dern isn't happy with UFC analyst Din Thomas after his pre-fight remarks downplaying her title bout at UFC 321. Dern became the new UFC strawweight champion last weekend in Abu Dhabi, defeating Virna Jandiroba by unanimous decision to capture the vacant 115-pound title left behind by Zhang Weili. It was the biggest night of her career, but it didn't take long for her to hear about Thomas's comments labeling the fight as the most insignificant title fight in recent UFC history. Before the event, Thomas had suggested that because Zhang Weili vacated the belt to move up and fight Valentina Shevchenko at flyweight, the strawweight division lacked a meaningful storyline, and that the new title fight felt flat. Those comments spread quickly online and rubbed a lot of fans and fighters the wrong way, especially Dern, who was about to fight for her first UFC championship. Speaking on the Ariel Helwani show after her victory, Dern made it clear she didn't appreciate being dismissed. She said she couldn't understand how any world title fight could ever be called insignificant. John Jones gave up his belt and Tom Aspinall became the champion. What do we in the strawweight division have to do with it? People can't retire, can't go up and wait? For a vacant belt, who else would fight for it? So I don't understand what would be so insignificant fighting for a championship, she said. She pointed out that Weili had done everything she needed to in the division and earned the right to move up, but that didn't make the fight for the vacant belt meaningless. They gotta have a champion, so I don't understand. How is any championship fight insignificant? Dern added that she expected more from someone in Thomas's position. As a commentator, and I think he helps training coaches too, I thought it was a little bit, I didn't understand it. Dern's reaction was measured but firm. She made it clear she respects everyone who steps into the octagon and believes every title fight deserves that same respect. She also mentioned that her win was not only for herself, but for the entire division, which continues to evolve after Zhang's departure. For Dern, the fight represented the culmination of years of growth since transitioning from jiu-jitsu to MMA. She had to learn striking, improve her conditioning, and overcome personal struggles to get to this moment. To hear someone imply that the belt she fought for didn't matter clearly struck a nerve. Thomas, meanwhile, hasn't directly responded to Dern's comments, but this isn't the first time his analysis has stirred debate. Earlier this year, he was criticized for calling a potential Khamzat Chimaev title win a disaster for the UFC. Remarks he later clarified were from a promotional standpoint rather than a personal one. Still, many fighters have taken issue with how blunt his takes can sound. For Dern, this moment feels like validation. She's now the official face of a division that's gone through major changes, and she's eager to prove she's worthy of the belt. She admitted she wanted to finish Jandiroba to make her win undeniable, but is already thinking about what's next. Tatiana Suarez could be a potential first challenger, or perhaps Yan Xiaonan if the UFC wants a fresh matchup. Either way, Dern seems ready to embrace being the one with the target on her back. After hearing all the noise around her, Dern ended her comments with a quiet confidence. Every title means something. If it didn't, I wouldn't have worked this hard for it.
Daniel Cormier is known for speaking his mind, but this time, the UFC Hall of Famer is the one feeling betrayed. After footage of a private, off-air exchange between him and heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall surfaced online, Cormier expressed frustration and disappointment, not over what he said, but over the fact that the conversation was made public at all. The clip, which went viral in the days following UFC 321, showed Cormier speaking candidly to Aspinall before his ill-fated title defense against Ciryl Gane. During the exchange, the former two-division champion appeared to downplay the challenges posed by other top heavyweights like Jailton Almeida and Alexander Volkov, while suggesting that Aspinall was on the verge of a dominant reign. Many fans and fighters took the comments as disrespectful toward the rest of the division, sparking a heated debate online and forcing Cormier to issue a clarification. Cormier addressed the situation on his show, Good Guy, Bad Guy, saying he was upset that the private conversation had been recorded and shared without his consent. I was trying to tell him that he was on the verge of something tremendously special right now. What I was saying in that statement was that Jailton Almeida is going to grapple you. It's not as dangerous of a fight. I could have done a better job of saying that to Tom. He then made it clear that his frustration wasn't just about optics, it was about trust. I was a little bit upset that Tom and them released that, if I'm being honest with you. When you lean into someone and you're talking quietly, that's a private conversation that should stay between you and the athlete. I thought it was embedded, and I know embedded would never do something like that. Cormier, who has been one of the UFC's most respected voices since retiring from competition in 2020, has long praised Aspinall as a potential generational talent in the heavyweight division. That's why this situation stung even more. What he viewed as an encouraging off-camera pep talk turned into a social media controversy that he never intended. I wasn't trying to disrespect Jailton Almeida or anyone else. Jailton deserves respect, and I do respect him. I felt bad because he's been so nice to me ever since he got into the UFC. He's a great guy and a real talent. This wasn't about him. It was about motivating Tom and talking about his potential. The timing of the controversy couldn't have been worse. At UFC 321, Aspinall's first undisputed title defense against Ciryl Gane ended in disaster after just 4 minutes when Gane accidentally poked him in both eyes, leaving the British champion unable to continue. The bout was ruled a no contest, prompting outrage among fans and a wave of online debate about eye poke rules and fighter safety.
In the aftermath, Aspinall has faced both sympathy and skepticism from fans, while Gane has been criticized for the foul. Amid all this, the leaked footage of Cormier's pre-fight talk only added fuel to an already fiery situation. Cormier's criticism of the release also underscores the growing tension between fighters, the UFC's media operations, and the hyper-connected world of combat sports fandom. With cameras rolling at almost every moment, from behind-the-scenes vlogs to live mic feeds, even a brief off-the-record conversation can become a headline within hours. For Cormier, that's a dangerous precedent. I've known a lot of fighters and worked with a lot of them behind the scenes. There has to be some level of respect and privacy. You can't have everything that's said in confidence ending up on the internet. That's not how this sport should operate. Cormier, who once shared heated rivalries with legends like Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, has now become one of the UFC's most trusted analysts. But even in retirement, he remains a polarizing figure whose words carry significant weight, sometimes more than he intends. Despite his frustration, Cormier hasn't turned the issue into a grudge against Aspinall. In fact, he reiterated his admiration for the British champion and called him one of the most talented heavyweights we've ever seen. Still, the veteran commentator made it clear that he expects professional courtesy going forward. I've always supported Tom. He's the future of the heavyweight division. But there's a difference between promoting the sport and sharing a private moment. That crossed the line a bit for me. With Jon Jones teasing a return in 2026 and Ciryl Gane lobbying for an immediate rematch, Aspinall's reign as champion has already been marked by controversy and uncertainty. For Cormier, however, this latest episode serves as a reminder that in the modern UFC, nothing, not even a quiet, off-camera chat, truly stays behind the scenes.
UFC 321 was supposed to be one of those cards that reinforced the promotion's reputation for delivering something special in Abu Dhabi, a location that's usually been synonymous with elite matchups and electric atmosphere. But this time, the entire night fell apart. From top to bottom, the event left fans frustrated, fighters dejected, and the promotion scrambling to clean up the aftermath. The co-main and main event were both letdowns. And by the end of the night, even the undercard developments managed to cast an even darker shadow over what should have been one of the UFC's flagship events of the year. Azat Maksum's release was predictable. Once seen as one of Kazakhstan's brightest prospects, his undefeated aura evaporated after back-to-back losses that exposed real limitations in his game. Against Mitch Raposo, a fighter many viewed as a step down in competition, Maksum looked flat. His timing was off, his wrestling couldn't control the fight, and he even lost a point for grabbing the fence in the third round. Raposo, on the other hand, looked sharp and composed, outworking Maksum and sealing a clear decision win. Maksum's quiet exit from the UFC felt like the natural conclusion to a disappointing run. But Hamdi Abdulwahab's release, on the other hand, stunned everyone. The Egyptian heavyweight came into UFC 321 with a point to prove, facing fan favorite Chris Barnett and delivering a gritty, dominant performance despite fighting through pain and even a broken hand. After losing a point earlier in the bout, Abdulwahab powered through fatigue, adjusted his game plan, and smothered Barnett with top control and relentless pressure. When the judges' scores were read, 29-26, 29-27, 29-27, it felt like a solid rebound performance. Not spectacular, but convincing. The kind of win that usually keeps a fighter safe. That's why fans were shocked when reports surfaced that Abdulwahab had been cut just days after the event. There was no public reasoning from the UFC, only speculation. Some suspected it was related to an internal disciplinary issue or contractual matter, rather than performance, while others thought it was a business move tied to roster reshuffling. Whatever the reason, the message was clear. Even winning isn't always enough to keep your spot in the UFC. It's even more frustrating because Abdulwahab's fight seemed to set up the next logical storyline for him, a potential clash with rising Brazilian heavyweight Walter Walker, who's been on an absurd run of heel hook finishes, called Abdulwahab out immediately after his own win on the same card, mocking his appearance and questioning his wrestling credentials. The trash talk gained instant traction online, sparking a small wave of fan interest that could have turned into something significant for the Middle Eastern market. A battle between Walker, the flashy submission artist, and Abdulwahab, the iron-willed wrestler, made perfect sense. But before the feud could even take shape, Abdulwahab was gone, and the rivalry vanished overnight. Walker's comments calling Abdulwahab a chocolate Peppa Pig might have drawn laughs, but behind the banter was a real opportunity to build momentum for two new heavyweights in a division that desperately needs fresh blood. Now, Walker's left with a viral soundbite and no opponent, and UFC 321's reputation as a cursed card only deepens. Between an unsatisfying co-main, a no-contest main event, and two unexpected roster cuts, the entire event feels like a case study in how quickly things can spiral for the UFC. What was meant to be a celebration of global talent in Abu Dhabi instead turned into a night defined by disappointment and confusion. For a card that had all the makings of something memorable, UFC 321 will be remembered for all the wrong reasons: an anticlimactic finish, a flat title fight, and two fighters who walked away from the octagon without realizing it would be their last time under the UFC banner.
Henry Cejudo is officially closing the curtain on one of the most decorated careers in mixed martial arts. The former Olympic gold medalist and two-division UFC champion confirmed that his upcoming bout against rising contender Peyton Talbot at UFC 323 will be his final fight inside the octagon. The event takes place December 6th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and for Cejudo, it marks not just another high-profile appearance, but the final chapter of a historic run. Speaking during the LFA 220 broadcast, Cejudo made it clear that this fight will serve as his farewell, no matter the result. "I'm fighting Peyton Talbot, a young buck. He's about 5'10", a young buck. It's my last fight, whatever the UFC wants to give me," Cejudo said with a smile. "I love it when the lights are bright. Give me the best you've got, bro. End me with a bang." The 37-year-old seemed at peace with his decision, confident, reflective, and ready to embrace the next phase of his life beyond fighting. When pressed to confirm if he truly meant it, Cejudo didn't hesitate. "This is it, man. I fell in love with business. I do a lot, and I have two kids. They're growing up. I don't like cutting weight, raising kids, the whole nine. I like being there. I fell in love with real estate, marketing, the whole nine. I'm making such a great living doing it that it's time to just peace out." For many fans, it's bittersweet news. Cejudo has long been one of the sport's most polarizing yet accomplished figures, an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling who went on to become a UFC flyweight and bantamweight champion, joining an elite list of champs in the promotion's history. His accomplishments inside the cage speak for themselves. Wins over legends like Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes, and Sergio Pettis, among others. At his peak, Cejudo wasn't just a champion. He was a showman who embraced his Triple C persona and brought entertainment value to a division many thought was on life support. That flair for storytelling is something Cejudo still takes pride in. "The fact that I was able to save a whole division, I feel like I did a great job. I was hated, I was booed, but something I did do very well was sell the damn story." Indeed, his run at flyweight and bantamweight was defined not just by skill and discipline, but by charisma and a knack for self-promotion. Even when fans booed him, Cejudo found a way to make them tune in. Now, after years of chasing gold and glory, Cejudo seems ready to trade fight camps and weight cuts for boardrooms and family time. In recent years, he's become increasingly involved in business ventures, real estate, and media work. And he's been candid about how much he enjoys it. The grind of training camps and fighting no longer holds the same allure it once did, especially now that he's a father of two and financially comfortable. Still, Cejudo isn't walking away without a fight. His final opponent, Peyton Talbot, represents the new generation, a dangerous, confident young contender looking to make his name by taking out a legend. At 26, Talbot is one of the brightest prospects in the bantamweight division, and the matchup is a classic passing of the torch moment. For Cejudo, it's the perfect opportunity to test himself one last time while giving a young fighter the kind of spotlight he once craved. Cejudo enters UFC 323 on a 3-fight skid, most recently coming off a technical decision loss to Song Yadong. While some critics have suggested that his time at the top is past, Cejudo insists that this fight isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about ending things on his terms. "I've done everything I set out to do. Olympic gold, 2 UFC titles. There's nothing left to chase. Now it's about walking away the right way with no regrets." Whether fans loved him or loved to hate him, there's no denying Cejudo's impact on the sport. His technical brilliance, competitive mindset, and unwavering belief in himself made him a trailblazer in 2 divisions. From the mat in Beijing to the octagon in Las Vegas, Cejudo's legacy is already secure. As he prepares for one last walk to the cage at UFC 323, it's clear that Henry Cejudo isn't running from the spotlight. He's stepping out of it with gratitude, accomplishment, and a smile. And if his words are anything to go by, he's planning to leave exactly the way he lived his career, all in and on his own terms.
Michael Chandler is finally back in the spotlight, though not quite in the way fans might have expected. The former Bellator lightweight champion, who's been on a tough skid inside the UFC, now has his next official opponent, and it's not Conor McGregor just yet. Instead, Iron Mike is set to face fellow UFC veteran Chad Mendes in a wrestling showdown under the Real American Freestyle (RAF) banner later this fall. The announcement came Monday, confirming that Chandler and Mendes will square off at RAF 03, taking place on November 29th at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago. The event, which will stream live on Fox Nation, marks the 3rd installment of the new unscripted pro wrestling league, one that aims to merge the authenticity of real wrestling competition with high-end production and storytelling. According to the official press release, the league's mission is to give athletes from across combat sports a chance to reconnect with their wrestling roots while performing on a professional stage. UFC legends Chad Mendes and Michael Chandler have joined the roster and will face off against one another on the RAF 03 fight card. The statement read, "The 2 champion mixed martial artists are the latest UFC stars to sign with the league, demonstrating the power of Real American Freestyle and the optionality presented to professional fighters whose first love is wrestling." RAF has already attracted partnerships with USA Wrestling, NIL, and the NCAA, positioning itself as a legitimate hybrid of competition and entertainment for wrestlers at all stages of their careers. For Chandler, this appearance isn't a departure from fighting, but rather a creative detour, a way to stay active and maintain visibility while he continues preparing for the long-awaited matchup with Conor McGregor. That fight, which has been teased and delayed for nearly 2 years, is reportedly being targeted for the historic UFC White House card in June 2026, an event President Donald Trump has been heavily promoting as a celebration of combat sports. Speaking with Bloody Elbow, Chandler confirmed that the fight with McGregor is still the ultimate goal. "We have some history. He's the opponent that he wants, he's the opponent that I want, and it would be one heck of an event if it happened." Chandler hasn't fought since his 3rd straight loss, a TKO defeat to Paddy Pimblett at UFC 314 in April, a result that left many questioning where the 38-year-old lightweight goes from here. But if his confidence is any indication, the former Bellator standout isn't done yet. "I've got plenty left in the tank," he said. "There's some big fights coming up next year that I'd love to participate in." As for Mendes, his move into Real American Freestyle marks another surprising turn for the former UFC featherweight contender who retired from MMA in 2019 before briefly returning to compete in bare-knuckle boxing. His bout with Chandler will see 2 of the sport's most respected wrestlers return to their competitive roots in a completely new format, one that blurs the line between sports and entertainment but remains grounded in real athleticism. For now, Chandler's fans will have to wait a bit longer for the McGregor fight to materialize, but between RAF 03 in November and a possible UFC White House showdown next summer, Iron Mike appears to have found the perfect way to stay in motion, blending his passion for wrestling, performance, and fighting into one chaotic, crowd-pleasing stretch to close out 2025.